talk about natural environment teaching, NET. NET is very similar to incidental. I find I have not done this as much as incidental, but a lot of people utilize it. Okay, so it's another naturalistic ABA approach. We're going to deliver the learner in the learner's daily routine. This targets communication, play, social, and self-care skills. So these are things that will naturally occur within the learner's environment. So you're going to capitalize on those opportunities. Again, we're really focused on learner interest in everyday material. So we're not going to do contrived tasks or artificial setups. So if you were, turn taking, you want to make sure you're actually playing a real game they would play with peers at school or on the playground so that they're getting actual opportunities to take turns. So again, NET is very highly motivating. Skills are taught in the natural context and are more reinforcing to the learner. NET really focuses on generalization. They want these skills that you're teaching to occur where they'll really occur and in all the possible areas that they might occur. With NET, I find with incidental and PRT, a lot of places will be like, let's move into PRT and focus on the goals within PRT. Same with NET. NET's incidentals really to teach initiations. NET, you'll kind of pull NET into your program. So you'll have a program, like the program is learning to order food at a restaurant. And so a NET approach to that would be to do that at the restaurant, not to make a pretend restaurant. It would be like actually going to the restaurant and ordering food. This teaching happens during real activities, less disruption to the learner's routine. And so this one is very efficient because you're not going to do anything that's not going to just occur within the so this would be used with activities embedded into the person's therapy or day. We wait for a verbal or nonverbal cue from the child. We're going to embed the targets of the routine within the routine. We use a least to most prompting hierarchy. If you don't have to prompt, you don't want to prompt. An immediate natural reinforcement. So delivered what was requested in the actual item. Okay, so integrate the targets into daily routine. Try to find teaching opportunities in meals, playtime, chores, and community outing. Those are kind of the big ones. So whatever they might be working on, like my turn, your turn, you could embed that into chores. You could embed vocabulary into meals. You're going to embed these targets. You always keep the material within reach, right out of the learner's reach to encourage that initiation. Use common everyday items, so leverage familiar objects like cups, utensils, and clothing as teaching tools. You might work on utensil vocab while eating. This requires quite a bit of planning. DTT requires the least amount of planning of all of them, but these you have to think about like these are their vocab targets. Now, what are they doing today, and where could I embed these vocab targets, or where can I embed these social skills targets to help them learn better social skills? You have to almost plan these pretty intensely. So you're also going to vary your context. So change up the environment to maintain the novelty and engagement. So like kitchen versus playgrounds. With NET and PRT to a certain extent, you could run those in the same environment over and over again and just be changing your materials. You have to change the environment. You can change the environment for the other ones too, but this one requires that you change the environment. Teachable moment. So you wait for the child to reach for an item and then you pause, giving them that processing time to have spontaneous communication. Let them think about it. It takes a lot. There's so many brain processes that go on when someone, they're pointing to an item in the past. They've always been given the item immediately when they point to it. And now you're not doing that. They have to process all of that information. Is there a way for me to get this? Can I do that? It takes some time. Capture the opportunity, prompt only when that learner is actively engaged, and we're not forcing anything. They have to want the item. If they look at an item, you pause and then they turn away and walk away, you wouldn't force it. record observations. We're recording initiations. Prompting, they do their prompting slightly different. So they start with gestural is what they consider the least intrusive prompt. So pointing, nodding, holding. Verbal would be next. Open-ended questions like what do you want? You might even have a partial model. We'd move to full model prompts. NET really avoids physical prompts, while the other ones have more information on physical prompts. Then we're going to do time delay prompts. If we prompt, we give them a little bit of a delay to possibly engage in the behavior without the prompt. You're trying to get that independent response. You're going to deliver naturalistic reinforcement, what they asked for, and we add the descriptive praise with that. Great job. Thank you for asking. Then you're going to fade that over time. You may start with some token stickers or other things to really get them to initiate. Over time, you would fade that away. So it was only those natural consequences. I get questions about natural consequences. If you think about someone totally untrained, just it doesn't have to be a stranger. I say that and it gets weird ideas in people's heads. Just like their parent's friend. Whatever their parent's friend would do for the behavior, that's probably the naturalistic behavior. Like if someone pointed to water, most people would probably hand that child water if they were pre-verbal or not speaking. So that's the naturalistic reinforcement. Ensure reinforcement is functional. Make sure the reinforcing item or activity serves as a practical purpose. Okay, so here's the difference between net and incidental, which has always really helped me when we write these out in this way. So net's really going to focus on those naturally occurring routines, while incidental focuses on the learner's interests, not so much like we need to be embedded in this natural routine. So you really can embed net in any setting, any place. And then with incidental, it really does need to be this place where they can request the item. So it feels a little different. In net, the learner's role is to focus on the learner's lead, but maybe introduce specific targets. And then with incidental, the learner is engaging with everything. It's always learner led. Prompting with net is flexible prompts woven into the activity. And then with incidental, we're doing that least to most prompts after a learner attempt. Reinforcement with net is natural consequences. Incidental is similar, but more directly linked to what they asked for. Net is a very loose structure, while incidental is very structured. It's the next most structure after DTT because we're really just all about those initiations. And then net data collection it might be event recording, momentary time sampling within routines. And then incidental is often they're just tally counting initiations, prompts, or responses. You want to use net when you need broad generalization. Most of the time, we start with incidental to get those initiations going. Once the initiations are really strong, we move to net to start teaching those initiations and other things within daily routines. We'll track initiations, prompt level, successful responses, and review it weekly. You can put the goals similar to PRT as part of the data collection here. So we're going to arrange the material similar. These are all, the role is very similar. So monitor cues and seize natural opportunities. And then you're going to implement prompts and reinforcement as planned. You're also going to collect concise in-context data. And then, of course, we're always going to report our observations and progress to our supervisor. So when there's not enough initiations, we increase motivation. These are all the same except data prompt dependency. We would shift to less intrusive prompts. Over prompting, allowing extra time before prompting. And then data drift. So you want to make sure they talk a lot about data drift. And so you want to make sure that your measurements are correct, how you're taking data, and that everybody on the team is taking data really similar.